Ray, and you are listening to Hoot Dawg Radio.
Welcome and thank you for listening to Hoot Dawg Radio, the official podcast for members of the Hoot Dawg Gaming Clan. This is the 5th episode, recorded on November 26, 2017. I am your host, Gunbait101, and with me this week is my co-host, Saul Tanky. How you doing, man?
Doing good. Just got off Destiny a little bit earlier, was playing a little bit of Crucible. I actually had a pretty decent amount of time in game this week. We'll go into that a little bit more as we go into our main discussion. Had a good week, nice Thanksgiving. Woke up bright and early Thanksgiving morning, ran a 5K with my wife and my 2 kids, and did a 5K without training for it at all. Which for most runners that's okay, but I'm not actually a runner, so I now have horrible shin splints. But I was able to kind of nurse my wounds with a ton of turkey and stuffing and grits with green chilies in them. So it was good Thanksgiving. And the other big thing that happened for me this week is I got to head up to the northern part of the state and hang out with my brother and Angry Chipmunk and his roommate Slug Monkey and Space Monkey. So we're going to just in the future refer to their house as the Hoot Dawg Frat House, because that's basically what it is. They're all in college, even though it's not a frat, it might as well be. And so we had some barbecue chicken pizza and we played some games. I was hoping to get a little bit of recording done, but and just never kind of got around to it. So we want to have those guys on the podcast here pretty soon. But yeah, so it's been a good week. So how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Been a very busy week. Knocked out a bunch of Iron Banner. Got my Shades of Radagast emblem on my Warlock, and managed to get my Titan up this week to right around 298 power level, and jumped into Iron Banner with him a little bit. And had a lot of fun with the Titan. I didn't realize, I know a lot of people were upset that you can't really Titan skate with a Titan anymore, but I still felt that the mobility with the strafe jump is still really good, and had a ton of fun with double grenades. And
oh yeah,
and just went in also with my Antiope and Uriel's Gift, and switched up to the what is the Iron Banner auto rifle that you get? I can't remember what it's called.
Is it the Forward Path?
That's
it.
The
auto rifle?
That's it. Yeah. Played around with that a little bit. Pretty good weapon. Gun. Yeah, it's not bad at all. And kind of went in with double auto rifles and with my Actium War rig. And gosh, I mean, you could dump a ton of ammunition into enemies. So I had a lot of fun with that. And on Thursday, as we are Americans, we observe Thanksgiving, and I had a ton of food, went instantly into a food coma afterwards, but I had a good day, just kind of a chill, relaxing day, hanging out with family and with good food. So
nice.
But that was pretty much my week. What do you say? Do you want me to go ahead and introduce our guest for this week?
Yeah, let's go ahead and get him in here.
All right. This week, our guest is Ray. He's been a member with us for a while. He's also our ambassador in our Discord. Ray, how are you doing, man?
I am doing well. I would say it's definitely an honor to be on the podcast, so thanks for having me.
We're super glad to have you on here. It's been kind of a long time coming. We're trying to also work out our little technical glitches here and there, but glad to finally have you on.
Well, Well, thank you. It was a great week for me as well. You know, Thanksgiving always brings family and friends together, so that's always nice. And you know, it coincided with a little bit of Iron Banner, so you both know how I love to get in there and mix it up in PvP, and so it was great. Getting in there also with clan members, because you know PvP, as it seems at least right now, is definitely Destiny and Bungie have made it very much a cooperative experience, and playing with team members makes it that much better. So it was really fun getting in there with everybody from the clan and running 4s. It would have been nice if we could still run 6s, but we had fun, and we split up the teams pretty well, and got some good wins out of it, and had a lot of fun playing PvP. So that was great.
Nice. Well, I wanted to ask you, I know that you've been in Hoot Dawg since very early on, back when it was still just the Discord. So just to get to our listeners and get to know you a little bit better, how did you get into gaming originally?
Well, very much like the conversation you had with McKingsley last week. I started out pretty early. I'm one of the older members of the clan, and am at least old enough to have had an original Pong. So that dates me somewhat. And then my parents just always encouraged us to play a lot of games, whether they were board games or card games. And then, you know, we started out, we had the Ataris and 2600, and then, you know, moved on to NES and then SNES, and then I had a long period where I had no gaming consoles while I was making my way through school, but then so I missed out on the whole PS1 and PS2 generation. But finally, once I got out of school and started working again, I invested in a PS3, and then finally a PS4 and an Xbox. So I'm full gamed up now, and back into it. And I've always just loved playing games, no matter what they were, whether it was card games or couch co-op or co-op on the computer. So that's the great part about being in the clan and finding Destiny, for that matter, is it's such a cooperative game that you can play with friends and really just have a great time doing it, whether it's in PvP or PvE. So look forward to more adventures as they come.
Nice. So have you been a shooter guy for a long time, or is Destiny kind of a change up?
That's funny. Actually, I had never ever played a shooter. I mean, I
don't
played...
believe that. I'm just going to flatly say I don't believe that.
Okay, well, let me preface that by saying I'd never played an online shooter multiplayer game before. So I'd played the Call of Duties, but they were mostly in campaign, or in the campaign version of the games, and never really got into online shooters, and so it was funny because Destiny does such a great job of bridging the gap between doing co-op PvE games and then with PvP. And I remember back in Destiny 1, had a few local friends that I had played with, but never been in a clan or anything like that. And I had gotten the Thorn quest, and my local friends, we just couldn't get it done. I mean, we couldn't get that last piece of it done, couldn't figure out how to do it. And I was kind of searching out there on the internet about how to complete the quest, and just ran into some random guy who was helping players out. And I was like, oh, I don't know about this, getting online. And so I sent him a text and said, hey, would you mind helping me out? And he shot right back and said, hey, are you online right now? And I was like, yeah. And give him his gamer tag as a shout out. His gamer tag was BoozeHound69. So, but it just goes to show how that's one thing about the Destiny community is he got in there, I got on the mic, I followed him, he showed me what to do, and we completed it in like 10 minutes. And the only thing he asked was, hey, if someone else out there needs help doing it, now and you can pay it forward by doing it for them. And so that's the great part about this game, is it fosters such a great community. And so definitely why I enjoy playing it.
Nice. Well, before we get into the how you got with the clan, just ask you one more quick Destiny-related question. What is your main in Destiny 2? What subclass?
Well, it's funny. I've had a long progression with all of the characters, and I will say that I try to play them and feel them out equally. In Destiny 1, I started out as a warlock and then went to a hunter and then finally finished with a titan. And then in Destiny 2, I did it in almost the reverse. I started out with a titan, then went to the hunter, and then went to the warlock. But I would have to say, in honesty, if I'm playing and grinding, for the most part, I'm grinding as a hunter. That's my preferred class in PvP for sure, and then in PvE. I can mix it up with just about any character, and I enjoy playing all three of them equally, but I'm definitely most comfortable, especially if there's jumping puzzles, being on a hunter.
All right. Well, also wanted to ask you, again, you're one of the longest running members of the Discord and the clan. You were there from very early on. How did you originally hook up with Hoot Dawg?
Yeah, so much like a majority of the members, I was really involved in the Destiny Reset podcast and the Destiny Reset podcast clan, and we had such a great group over there of people, but as with all things, kind of people fade in and out of things, and I just remember being online one night, and I almost missed my invite, but thanks to you, Zoltansky, I got another, as I was sitting there and I had gotten up to do something, and I had come back and there was like this silence, and I was like, hello, and you were like, hey, did you hear Rob when he asked if you wanted to be on the Discord app? And I was like, nope, I must have been getting that beer out of the fridge. So you were nice enough to send me a link to the Discord app, and then of course when Rob made it official and made it a clan, I was able to jump in.
Nice. I know that you were in a lot of those original raids that we did, and I think you played with Rob for a while before I ever played with you. As with a lot of the early days, we had so many people in those first couple of weeks. It's hard to keep track. I don't even remember that about the conversation in chat. That's funny.
Yeah, definitely. It was definitely good getting in with a clan, and being in a smaller group of players, you just really get to know everyone. And of course, the infamous PvP tournament and the various other things we tried to do to keep ourselves entertained with private matches and some other things as Destiny 1 wrapped or concluded, and then on to Destiny 2. So it's just been a really great group of guys and gals, and definitely enjoy playing, whether it be raiding, PvE content, or PvP content. So.
Yeah, and speaking of, I've got we've reformed the team that tormented me so bad during that Red Bar Classic. So congratulations, guys.
I must say I had a ton of fun that day.
I bet you did.
Yeah. Yeah, that was definitely one of the funner times we've had as a group. I think everybody just enjoyed getting in there and mixing it up, and definitely when private matches roll around again, it sure would be nice to go in and do that again, because it was just such a fun way to kind of get to know people in the clan, and also have a little bit of competition, friendly competition with your clanmates. So.
I know. I keep waiting for that announcement when private matches are going to be back. I keep hoping that during one of the live streams at the end, he's just going to say, and private matches are live now. Of course, it's probably not going to happen. They're going to make us wait.
Yeah, it's scheduled for the next season. They said sometime in this next season that private matches should come back, but yeah, I'm hoping it's sooner rather than later. So, all right. Are there any further questions to ask Ray at this point? Or
no, I don't think so. Looking forward to getting into the news and then our main discussion.
Are you?
I certainly am.
Okay.
Getting closer and closer to some new content, man. I can't wait.
All right. Well, thank you, Ray. I appreciate you being on. And what do you guys say? You guys ready to do the news then?
Sure.
Let's do the news.
All right. Okay, so this week in our news segment, we have a brand new This Week at Bungie. It came to us on Thursday, November 22nd by DMG04. Basically, at the top of the TWAB, Bungie included a recap video, like last week's, of the second Curse of Osiris live stream that occurred last Tuesday on the 21st. And we'll be going over that a little bit more in the main discussion topic. An interesting note, there was no mention that Iron Banner was being held this week. So usually they have little notes here and there, but I understand that this isn't their main writer that they have for the TWAB, but it would have been kind of nice to have a little mention in there about it. But being that it's not over, I guess that's another reason not to have it in there. Then they had a mention about last week hotfix 1.0.7.1 rolls right off the tongue, was released to address Buffalo errors on PC. Bungie actually discovered that certain players were incorrectly receiving Buffalo errors within the game client, and that they were caused by other problems. In their continued investigations, they have added the following issues to the known issues list. The first one was faction rally tokens are removed when players create new characters within Destiny 2. I don't know if you guys remember back when Destiny 2 was originally released on console, we kind of had the same problem with raid keys, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
You couldn't create another character or else your keys would actually disappear.
Yeah.
In the Leviathan raid, Callus may sometimes become immune to damage during final phase.
Sure, he does.
I would also add to that list, too. They don't have it in their known issues list, but I watched several streams this last week. They would enter into the throne room, and Callus wouldn't even show up. So they may actually want to consider that, adding that to the list, because I saw it on several streams. It was kind of weird. And
it's kind of like that. It's kind of like that glitch where you load into the tower and there's just no vendors. It's just you walk up and it's just all the kiosks are just empty.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was like. And then this one, which I actually am still getting on PS4, it is a black screen when loading into the tower.
Yeah, I get that too.
Yeah, so I usually end up having to bring up my. I usually have to hit options to go to my inventory. Then I hold down the touchpad to go to the director to fly to somewhere else and come back. But
I've always wondered if that's an issue where the instance is too congested and they're trying to reroute you, or exactly what that is. But I experience that every once in a while. It's not super common, but I have run into it from time to time.
Yep. The next issue is Sweet Business and Sturm ornaments are showing that they were already added to the collection before the player actually receives them. And then the last one was the Survivalist perk on Legendary Hunter leg armor is not granting the intended recovery stats. And that was the TWAB for this week. It wasn't very lengthy. There were some movies of the week and some montages that were shown up there. But it's kind of hard to show those on a podcast. So on November 22nd, Forbes Now contributor Paul Tassi posted an article titled "Destiny 2's biggest problem is that it feels like year 4 of Destiny 1." Mr. Tassi went on to write about how there was an ungodly amount of excitement for the new Destiny content. and these are a direct quote from Mr. Tassi, and it was more of an editorial piece. It wasn't actually really a newsy type article, but I thought it was interesting article to note. But he said, because of the kind of sequel Destiny 2 is and the overall nature of the game, whether they want to admit it or not, fans are just getting tired of Destiny in general. And he made 3 points to further his point. On base level, Destiny 2 feels like Destiny 1. The second point was sequels often feel like their predecessors to some degree, and probably should in some respects, but Destiny runs into the problem of being a game that you're supposed to want to play all the time. And this was the problem with this is the problem with games as a service that is not often discussed, but players expect hundreds or thousands of hours of content. When players don't receive that many hours of content, they feel what they have to grind is lame, and players are irate. And Destiny cannot afford to put out the amount of content that players expect without their player base paying a subscription service. And then Paul Tassi concluded that he is not saying that Bungie shouldn't continue to improve Destiny 2 and bring back features that were available in Destiny 1, but ended with how Bungie releases content. Maybe 10 years of constant content for a game like this isn't a sustainable idea.
Can I say that I totally disagree with Mr. Tassi with all due respect?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think that he has got it all wrong. I think that realistically, I mean, every fan wants content. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And Destiny and Bungie has developed a world that we all want to play in. The problems with Destiny 2 have nothing to do with content. I get excited every single time content comes out. I was excited when Destiny 2 content came out, and I want to play that content. The problem that I have is that the content that they're providing me doesn't give me the rewards that make me want to come back. And if he's sitting there saying that players lose interest because they have to grind, that was the whole point of Destiny 1, and you saw how many people stuck around forever for that very reason. So I don't know. I have a hard time sitting there saying, or trying to put it back on a player base, saying that we're the greedy ones who want more content and Destiny can't fulfill our needs, when it was the changes that occurred between Destiny 1 and Destiny 2 to the reward system that I think fundamentally changed the way that Destiny and the Destiny players wanted to play that game.
Yeah. I honestly, you really summed up my answers very succinctly, actually. I couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah, I mean, it's not really a lack of content. It's actually incentive that we're having a problem with, or the rewards, if you will.
And in fact, I mean, the whole point, to me at least, the whole point of Destiny, and the point that I kind of was trying to make in my pay it forward comment at the start of the show, was that I don't think there's a single person in our clan, in our group, and a group of Destiny 1 players that wasn't out there grinding, helping other players. That's the fundamental part of what this great game that Bungie developed was for us, helping your friends get through areas. You just have to make it rewarding, and I think to a man, we all grinded strikes for hours upon hours upon hours, and never, well, we found out that there were funner ways to get through the content and speed runs and various other things, but it was that loot, that grind at the end, that the reward that we were getting that made us want to do it.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And so a couple things I would say. You know, his first thing is he goes into saying on a base level, Destiny 2 feels like Destiny 1. I don't know that that's something that I've heard people complain about, it feeling too much like Destiny 1. Like you said, Gunbait, I think it's more the rewards that people are upset about. The idea of it feeling more like a year 4, I could not disagree with that more. When you look at the quality of life improvements that we had in year 4, we had all of this content that we were able to do, all the raids were unlocked. They were all at current light level. There were so many weapons in the game. To say that Destiny 2 is in any way feels like that, that's what I don't get. Now, so let me say this is to start with as far as the reward system. A lot of people complained about the token economy. I don't have a problem with that. The reason for that being is even in Destiny 1, it's the actual progression was pretty similar, except instead of tokens, you had a status bar. So you could look at these vendors and you could see how close you are until you level up again. Okay. Now it's basically you turn in the tokens and it happens right then. So to me, I don't see that much of a difference with that. What I do see a difference in is what are you actually taking time right now to level your character for? Once you get all the weapons, you have no further incentive to go back in and just get the same weapons over and over again. But like Ray was saying, the reason why all of us stay in is because of these friendships that we forged, these people that we played with for months or even years. You know, an example of that is just last week. My wife and I were just on playing late one night. It was like 11:30, 12. And we were playing through the last couple story missions so I could get my Warlock up to speed. Got a message from Gunbait. Mind if I hop in? Now, was that because you really wanted to play the last couple story missions and watch the Almighty blow up again?
Yeah.
No. Well, never mind. There goes my point.
Oh, no. Go ahead.
No,
I enjoyed company, you know.
Yeah.
Is that so wrong?
Yeah. So again, I see what he's saying, and I think from an outsider looking in, I understand his perspective, but I kind of wonder a little bit what his history with the game is, because even the complaints that I'm hearing from the community is not so much that it feels like the predecessor too much, as much as that they miss things that were available in Destiny 1.
I would also like to further your point too. I mean, it does feel like a predecessor. I mean, as far as like, not in the same way. I mean, there are certain similarities that it definitely feels like Destiny 1, but there also is a lot that has changed as far as how economy, how, certain, how the weapons are changed, how, simply, movement has changed, time to kills have changed. There's a lot that has changed with it. I think a big problem that I'm actually starting to see now is that the complaints that we're seeing with a lot of people that are complaining about Destiny 2 right now, I think that they may have played way too much Destiny 1. And what I think I'm also seeing here is it's a little bit of burnout. And, which, maybe, for some of these people, I don't understand the hate that goes on with Reddit and stuff like that. This is the first initial release of the game. I mean, we don't even have a DLC yet, and people are just railing against this. And they even have a clear cut path as far as each season for, we can put it on our calendar as far as, when we're getting new weapons, when they're going to make sandbox changes and stuff. I honestly think that, these people are just, they're harping on Reddit or Twitter. And even if you look at the Bungie mentions list on Twitter, I use TweetDeck to read Twitter, but it is just a hate-filled thread, and it's a lot of nonsensical junk that goes on. And I honestly, I think these people just need to take a break for a little bit too.
Yeah, no, and I tend to agree. Listen, I'm not saying that people should hate on a game. I'm not saying that there should be venom in their comments. But I will say this, and this is coming from a player who's played, hundreds. I mean, listen, guys, it is sad how much love my life I put into this game.
We're there with you, man.
But I will say this: when you start, the reason that Destiny 1 stood so long at the top of Twitch, or at least was up there on the pages, was because the content creators that we're putting out, and the people who wanted to watch those content creators were putting out content that people were willing to watch. And when you start to see those content creators now who made their living, who made their name on the Destiny community, start having to play other games because they've gotten everything that you could possibly get in the game, there's a fundamental issue in how the rewards are being doled out. And I think that that's an issue that Bungie has to address. I mean, listen, I'm crazy in the sense that I do love the game, and I love watching videos from content creators about the game, which is even maybe a little bit overboard. But when you talk about people like I Am Cool Guy or Mesa Sean or Unknown Player or My Name is Bife, and you don't see content from as much from these players anymore because we don't have vendors that are selling guns on a weekly basis. We don't have randomized roles to do gun reviews on, so that people are out there constantly chasing that magical weapon. I mean, the game is built around a power fantasy, and when you don't have that, when every gun that you get is, okay, I've got my 9th Better Devils today. Okay, well, what does that mean? It means nothing. It means legendary shards. Now, I get what you're saying, Gambit. I won't argue with you that, it's year one and we need to let them have a chance to figure that out and flesh that out. And with upcoming content, I hope that they get there. But I see where the complaints are coming from. Maybe they're not delivered in the best way possible, but I do understand them.
Well, it goes back to one of the...
I didn't...
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no,
okay,
no, go ahead.
I will go ahead. No, and I don't say that I don't understand them. I just, I can have a logical complaint, and as you said, some of these complaints have venom in their message, and I can have a complaint, but I can also offer it with constructive criticism. I'm just not going to drop, a pile of garbage on someone and just say,
yeah,
maybe this is a horrible.
You're right. There's no place for that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if you can, I understand that they are the developer, you're the customer. I get it. But, with plans in the works and then also not being, just by dumping hate on it and not actually offering anything in return as far as saying, hey, this is my issue. Can we do, here's my complaint. Can you do something about it? I wish more complaints would be like that rather than, fix this, Bungie.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and I would say, I'll be the first to admit, I have ideas. I'm probably, to be honest, one of the biggest offenders because I don't necessarily put my ideas out there for the world to see, but I do have some ideas about how they could fix some of the things and bring some more quality of life ideas to the game that would get people inject some of that passion that people have for Destiny 1 back into Destiny 2. And so, I'll take my lumps for that, not creating content or putting my name out there. But I definitely will agree with you that if you're not going to come with new ideas and you're just going to come with toxicity and venom, that there's no place for that, especially in such a great community that they've tried to foster. So
it goes back to an issue that I've had with some of the Destiny content creators. Destiny was never intended to be a full-time job for someone. It's just not structured that way. I understand with some of the long-running MMOs, like you could probably make a career off of just doing Warcraft videos, okay? Because you have years and years of it. It's something where they're constantly dumping content into. With Destiny, it's just not really feasible to base your entire career off of just doing Destiny content. So what happens is a lot of these content creators have to move on to other things. And I think a lot of the issues that we've seen on Reddit and in the Destiny community in general, they start with content creators that are maybe bored, maybe they've run out of things to do, And so the salt kind of starts there and it filters down into the community. The example I've used in the past is so many people were just clamoring for private matches last year. And so we finally got them. And I was thinking, man, this is going to be it. It's going to be like the World Series of Destiny PvP every single night. But what ended up happening? After a while, people got bored with it because there's kind of only so many things you can do with it. And so then they just started complaining again. I see that a lot with stuff in Destiny. So that's the first thing I see, is that a lot of the issues that people complain about are, if you're not a content creator, if you're not relying on Destiny, basically because you have to get a video out every week, they're not things that affect your average player quite as much. But the attitude that a lot of the content creators have kind of filters down into the community. The second thing that I've noticed, and you probably remember this, Gunbait. One of the first times that it kind of occurred to me that maybe we should do a podcast was during the beta. You, me, and Rob had a conversation one night. I think actually while we were playing GTA, we all three of us have been playing the beta. And I don't remember who brought it up first. We're like, okay, let's go ahead and just get this out of the way. Let's talk about the beta. And we spent hours and hours talking about it. And one of the things that I said, and I think you guys had echoed as well, is that in the beta, it looked like Destiny 1. And so I felt like it should feel like Destiny 1, but it didn't. Now, I think that with the actual game release, it feels more like Destiny 1 to me than the beta did, but it still is a very different thing. And so I think when people come into it expecting to have all of the quality of life improvements and the amount of content, the amount of guns, all these things that were available in Destiny 1, I just don't think that that's a bar that you can reach with a game that's really only a couple months old. As you said, it's in its infancy.
Yep. All right. I guess that was kind of a hot button issue. I guess we'll move on to it because that.
Guys, I'm glad we had this talk.
Yeah. All right. We'll move on to another topic that I'm sure will all interest us. And this was posted on Bungie.net on the 24th by the Destiny dev team. And it was titled XP in Destiny. And I don't know if I need to read this verbatim, but there was obviously recently there was huge discussion in Reddit and on Twitter, people noticing that there wasn't proper XP gains given for over the course of a period of time doing public events, as opposed to doing things like the raid or doing things in the Crucible. And one of the things that, graphs and charts started showing up on Reddit, as I noticed, was there was a discrepancy in between. It almost seemed like that we were being throttled. And maybe I should read this just to make sure that, we don't really deviate or jump into speculation on this, because, it's kind of a serious issue right now, but, but I didn't want to give the charts too much credit because, there were some inaccuracies I noticed within the data. But basically what it looked like, and I'll just go through this, but this is the Destiny dev team. They said, "We've seen the community discussion around XP gain in Destiny. After reviewing our data, we agree that the system is not performing the way we'd like it to. Today, we'd like to describe what's going on under the hood and talk about what you can expect going forward when it comes to earning XP in Destiny 2. Currently, XP will scale up when you're playing longer or fixed duration activities like Crucible competitive multiplayer matches and the Leviathan raid. And XP will scale down when you're playing activities that can be quickly repeatedly chained, like grinding public events." And then they said, we are not happy with the results, and we've heard the same from the community. Effective immediately, we are deactivating the system. As a result, players will see XP earn rates change for all activities across the board, but with all values being displayed consistently in the user interface. Over the course of the next week, We will be watching and reviewing XP game data to ensure that these changes meet our expectations as well as yours. Any additional updates to the system will be communicated to you via our official channels. And one of the discrepancies that I was talking about was people were using Destiny Item Manager as one of the values for representing XP in their charts. And everybody was complaining that it was only showing like half of the XP value that you can get in Destiny the game. And Bungie just tweeted this out. It was right before we started. It was right around 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Twitter. And this came from Bungie Help. And they said the Destiny 2 API has yet to be adjusted to reflect the recent game change to the earn XP. We are working on an API update to address the discrepancy. The correct value to earn an additional level is 160,000 XP. Right now, I think it's directly cut in half. It's showing only 80,000 XP.
So let me just interject just very briefly here. I would say I'm not terribly informed on this subject. I've been following it a little bit here and there. I don't know all the ins and outs of it. Something that I have seen submitted on Reddit is maybe a possible reason why this was brought up. If I'm correct, Bungie brought this up, right? It wasn't something that the community had been complaining about so much as Bungie just sort of brought it up, right?
I don't know the timeline on it. My guess is probably not.
Okay. They have certainly taken a lot of effort to kind of get out in front of it. I think one of the reasons for that, just to kind of timestamp when we're recording here, this is the week of the Battlefront debacle. Okay. And it's very interesting that they've been very proactive about getting this fixed, because I think that they've seen the fallout of what's happened with the whole Star Wars Battlefront 2 issue. I think they decided they wanted to make a statement on this very quickly, make it clear that they see what's going on and that they're going to fix it.
Yeah, I mean I think that's a fair point. I mean, I think it, the universe or the Eververse system with the XP gains. I mean, I still think that there's a far cry from what was going on with EA versus what's going on in this particular instance, which is it's a cosmetic features that you can be rewarded, and I'm certainly not going to get into the debate because I'm pretty uneducated about it, about whether or not EA and those loot boxes in Star Wars Battlefront was predatory, on a community in a pay for win situation. But at least it feels like in this particular XP gain, while they were it wasn't being distributed, whether that was intentional or not, it certainly is something that they want to address. And I think, Sky, you're right that it comes on the heels of this EA, and it's better from a PR standpoint to get out in front of these things than let it linger and become a bigger issue than it potentially may be. But it certainly doesn't feel like a pay to win situation here, where they're trying to make people spend more silver in order to get those cosmetic items. But that could just be giving Bungie the benefit of the doubt. Who knows?
Yeah, and it seems like Eververse is a lesser issue than I expected it to be originally. And we've discussed this before. In Destiny 1, there's a lot of complaints about Eververse. Destiny 2, I think most people are pretty much happy with where it is, because anything that you can buy, you can also earn in-game. Now, it's still a roll of the dice. You may never get that item. I understand people don't like that so much. But if you save your bright dust, you can get pretty much anything you want. So not quite as much of an issue in Destiny, but again, people ask for transparency from Bungie. I'm always a little bit puzzled by that. I mean, we don't ask for transparency from McDonald's because we figure, okay, well, they're a private business. There's a lot of things we're just never going to know. But I think this is an instance where Bungie's being transparent that there's an issue here, and we're taking steps to get it fixed.
So we had our second live stream from Bungie on Tuesday the 21st. Once again, Deej was hosting, and he was joined by Dave Matthews, the art director for Curse of Osiris. He was actually a returning guest, and they were joined by Dan Miller, the game director for Curse of Osiris. They went on to talk about exploring Mercury and the in-game reward systems, some of the weapons that were coming up. They didn't go into too much detail about it. They did do some demoing with that, and they explained how they were delivering some of the incentive for playing, and basically, and then they demoed off a little bit of the Infinite Force. But once again, I sat through the live stream. I have to say this live stream wasn't as information dense for me to take notes on, but I took notes on what I could. But first off, they went through and exploring Mercury, and basically starting off, they talked about what they were adding to Destiny 2's endgame. First up was the Infinite Forest, and it was a new, what they title as a new way to play. And as they kind of were talking about that, they kicked it over to some pre-recorded footage of the public event. And the reason why they went to pre-recorded footage was because it was they were demoing a live session. It would have taken up too much time for them to wait for the public event to happen, apparently. So they recorded pre-recorded, or they had pre-recorded footage of the public event happening. But first up, I guess before we start into that, is there any initial thoughts that you guys have over this live stream before we get started on that?
We'll kick that to you first, Ray.
Did I have any specific thoughts? Well, it was the public event looked interesting. I mean, let's be honest. I think we all mastered the Destiny 2 public events, so it's interesting the scale of this one. It definitely looks too hard to. If you're the only one sitting there when it starts, it might be it might be a little difficult to try to get this one to heroic by yourself for sure.
Right.
But, and the Infinite Forest kind of looks cool with they said it was kind of like a Lego puzzle in the sense that you can get different, levels to pop up, different enemies to pop up. It was a little bit less than random, but it will provide some change, I guess, in the content. So from that standpoint, I can see how with jumping puzzles and various different events that you could do inside of it, it certainly might be something that is worthy taking a look at. I just don't know how far the replayability of it will go, but I'm looking forward to at least trying it out and trying out a new social space, and then definitely with the crafting of the weapons. That was the most interesting part to me. I thought that those weapon quests, I think the word crafting we've used going back to the Taken King days of sitting there wasting all of our motes of light trying to get rolls. I don't think it will be that, but I do think it will be something akin to how we used to have the Thorn quest, or the quest that we received for the Thunderlord equivalents for solar and void damage in the Taken King. So if we get those types of quests where we're out there doing more world quests for more weapons, I think that's something exciting that will at least draw me back into the new content to kind of forge those weapons and kind of go out on that loot grind. So I'm happy and excited to see that.
Yeah, I didn't take any notes in this live stream like I did with the first one. I think if I did, most of it would have just been, wow, that looks pretty. The the Infinite Forest looks so. First thing I'll talk about is the Infinite Forest looks amazing to me. Just on an aesthetic level, it looks really, really cool. I like you were saying too, Ray, the concept of it almost being like a Lego puzzle. For me personally, it looks like it's going to have a very high level of replayability, because as you were watching, it was just nonstop action. You're in this section, kill all the enemies, jump to the next one, different kind of enemies. You're in a different time, jump to the next one. It seems like there's a lot of variety to it. Now, I've said this in the past when I first started playing Prison of Elders. I thought, man, I will never get tired of this, until about my 10th completion, where I was like, God, please don't make me ever do that again. And then when Archon's Forge came out, I was like, I could just do this forever. And, it was great for about a month. And then after that, you see it's kind of basically the same thing over and over again. With this, it looks to me like there's enough variation in it. If you like shooting stuff and you like the Destiny mechanics, it seems like they're all going to be kind of available in this space. So I'm very excited about that. As far as what you were saying with the weapons crafting, this is the thing that I'm the most excited about with this DLC. I think, when we were going through, in our Discord, our buddy Clear Knight was kind of like live messaging the initial stream. And when he got to the whole part about the weapons crafting, I actually put in there, well, I think we just found our grind. And I am really looking forward to seeing what's entailed in the weapon crafting. The hand cannon that we saw, which is one of the few of the new weapons that we've seen so far, looks really interesting to me. I'm excited to see exactly how that shakes out.
Okay. Well, I will go into the public event as I started earlier. Then I so foolishly forgot to ask you guys what your guys' thoughts were. But so first, Dan Miller said that they designed the patrol zone around the public event area. He referred to it as a Vex Circus. That's not the official name of the public event, but that's kind of what they were internally, I guess, calling it. But they said that it is a transformative space, and that it is a running theme throughout the whole of the release. And when they started the public event, and this is one thing that, it was kind of a running joke on the internet, and maybe Deej shouldn't have talked it up so much, or maybe he shouldn't have mentioned it at all, just, commented that there was 2 chests at the end. But this is his quote: "You are witnessing the most largest, most elaborate, and most rewarding public event that you will ever see, or that you will ever see later." So, and we'll get to that point here in a little bit. And it was so awkward. I mean, I can't wait to see the Jez's video when he creates awkward moments in the Bungie live stream video. But basically, just to kind of quickly describe it, there was so much going on that happened within the public event, but there are essentially gatekeepers at each section that you need to defeat to progress. The gatekeepers drop keys, and you have to take those keys and put them in their respective place. And then, from what we saw in the video, in order to get to each section, you have to take a Vex man cannon and shoot yourself across a long distance to get to each section. And this was not shown, but they did make the heroic event, the public event, heroic. And they did comment. They said, "We are not showing you how to do that. They're just showing you that they did make it heroic." And basically a big mind or a massive minotaur spawns, and then they defeated it. And at the end of the heroic public event, 2 chests spawn in the center, and I think only 2 chests spawn because it was heroic. I don't think that shows up if you don't get it heroic. But Deej said, "As promised before, that this is the most rewarding public event, and there we have it. We have 2 chests. And the contents were 2 tokens and a rare Titan mark."
And lots of friendship.
Well, Yes. And so I don't know. I felt weird when I didn't see the video live. Because at that time I had to leave for work. But when I saw the VOD, playback and he mentioned that, and then I saw what was given out of the chest, I thought, nope, he probably shouldn't have talked that up as much as he did. And maybe he's learned his lesson in the future, but because you can't always rely on RNG. I mean, I watched some other content creators' videos. There was some that got some decent weapon drops out of them. So, I'm convinced that there is a possibility of getting better rewards out of it. However, when you're showing your main video footage is this, and it was pre-recorded video footage for that matter. We wouldn't have known any different if they would have shown exotics popping out, but that I imagine that would have been setting expectations too high.
Yeah, he kind of stuck his foot in his mouth there.
Yeah, but what could, in all reality, right? I get you. I agree with you wholeheartedly that two tokens in a blue, or 3 tokens in a blue out of 2 chests, Titan mark is not the right result. But what could they have done? To show, a new gun that maybe wasn't available to the players pops up and goes, but what could have come out of those chests if it was another exotic engram? We can get that out of the regular public events. I'm just, for the sake of discussion, what could have popped out of there that could have excited us?
Well, obviously there is region specific loot, like there's certain types of armors that you can get from, IO or Titan or the EDZ that you can get out of them, I suppose. But I think the real thing is that they probably shouldn't have talked it up. As far as the way Deitch did. Could have saved him a little bit of embarrassment. Maybe he's not embarrassed. I don't know. Maybe he's like, I feel rewarded.
Yeah, you got 2 tokens. Come on.
He's tokens. And I don't know if, because he says, and there we have it. We have 2 chests. And I don't, and maybe I'm overanalyzing this, but
I see what you mean.
Maybe they see it.
The way he set it up, you almost would expect like a loot explosion, see like a couple purple engrams, some tokens, some weapons, stuff like that. So, I see what you're saying there. It is a little bit underwhelming. Well, and he made the comment right at the end, there we have it. We have 2 chests. And I don't know if that is considered as the reward to them. If there's like a miscommunication of what their definition of reward is as opposed to our definition of reward, because he seemed to be more excited about that there was just 2 chests there. Yeah, but also it could be an early build. All of this can just be explained by saying it's a pre-release build, might not be finished. They could still be working on it. But again, he, like you said, he shouldn't have set it up quite that way if that's the way it's going to shake out. But I have a hard time seeing that being the end result.
Yeah, I guess what he perhaps, and this is hindsight, and, God only knows he knows how to do his job much better than I would, but maybe preface it by saying, hey, we're not, just like we're not going to show you how we triggered the heroic event, we're not going to show you what the rewards are yet, because that's part of what we want you to look forward to when you play this expansion. And it's going to be more rewarding. I know, the idea of air quotes, trust us on this, is not something that like you said, the Reddit community out there is certainly willing to do at this point, but it certainly would have took the sting a little out of 3 tokens and some blues.
Right. So, well, I we won't talk anymore on that, but it was an interesting time in that live stream. But moving on to endgame reward systems, they mentioned once again about the weapon wall inside the lighthouse. And we had seen this on the previous live stream, and it basically they went through and mentioned that it is an optional in-game pursuit that players can enjoy after they have completed the campaign. So any of those weapons that doesn't look like you're going to get them as drops throughout the campaign, they will just be quests afterwards. Brother Vance, and my eyes rolled back into my head and almost popped out when he said it, but Dan Miller called him the Vancinator, and I was just like, gosh, do they really call him that? But basically, they noted what Brother Vance does. He gives you bits of information. He gives you new adventures, new chases. I believe it was Dave Matthews. He said that he is the cornerstone of how you explore Mercury. And the destination is delivered to you through a series of adventures. And one thing that I wanted to note too, and they also noted in the live stream, was that some of the adventures are heroic, and they will have alternating modifiers. So I thought that was interesting. I think that's something that they should be doing with the other adventures, but not just giving them modifiers to make them difficult, but they do need to have an incentive to do them in the end.
Yeah. I mean, hey, what do you guys think about this? And I'm just going to throw it out there just for the sake of throwing it out there. You know, one of the I think we all can agree, one of the coolest adventures that we were ever on in Destiny 1 was the Black Spindle quest, right? No one knew it was coming. No one knew how to do it. It just showed up one day. Very, very much akin to also the raid weapon for Wrath of the Machine, right? The coming out that exotic and you know, the math class figuring it out and the complexity of that adventure that you went on to go get it. What if it were like that? What if this weapon wall were like that? And instead of Brother Vance coming out with a wall that we get one of the verses, and instead of the verses saying go collect this token or go collect 6 of these materials, it was go figure this out. And every single weapon. No, I mean, in all honesty, right? What if the Rat King adventure, right? That was set up with this. It had all these rhyming verses to it, but in the end, it told you what you were supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
But what if it didn't? And what if, for the hardcore fan out there, and you know, the Destiny community's clever. In fact, they're way smarter than I am. And they'll have this stuff figured out, and people will be able to go in and emulate it. But it sure is fun trying to figure it out. And what if you create longevity in this game with this, wonder wall of weapons? And it was adventures like that instead of at least what it appeared to me. And maybe, it was obviously the first step was to go out and collect some planetary materials. At least it looked like in the video. But would we be so opposed to something like that? I know I wouldn't.
I would not be. Actually, a lot of people have been asking for that Black Spindle moment. That was one of the things that you and I did with Rob, and I believe your brother and Angry Chipmunk was there as well. But after he got his Black Spindle, I came in and joined you afterwards. And we both ran through that Black Spindle mission with Rob together. And that was also at the same time. I was right with you guys when he also got the ship at the same time too. So I was there for that intensity. But, there was also story around that we had. There was story around, that's one of the things that I think that we're all kind of missing is I think I was Clear Knight retweeted something from Handsome Dragon today as far as his likes and dislikes in Destiny 2. And one of the things that I keep hearing repeated over and over all the time was, this was on his list, but he specifically put it as a story behind how you got a weapon. And, there's so many people that had that moment where, they refer to it as the Gallahorn moment, or that story on how they got their Gallahorn, where they were at, and who they were with, and because that was an exciting time for them, that super random drop that came down, and they were able to have that, I think that moment.
Go ahead. Sorry, the audio was cutting out just a bit. Yeah, I agree with you on that. I miss a lot of the wonder and excitement of just discovering new things. And I don't know how much of that we're really going to see in this new DLC. There's been a lot of talk in the community and on other podcasts about this. I would have to imagine that the team that made these DLCs were developing these during the development process of the base game, or very shortly thereafter, most of the stuff. So a lot of the quality of life improvements that we've been asking for, a lot of the changes that we've been asking for, we're really not going to see those until a little bit further down the road. So, like you were saying, Ray, I would like to see more quests like that. I hope that those are things that they have built into the DLCs. If they're not, I definitely think that that's something that they're hearing a lot from the community. It'll be really interesting to see where this game is a year from now, or a year and a half from now. I really do hope that we have more things like that added in that just give the game a little bit more character.
Moving on, they went on to talk about what were called the Lost Prophecy weapons, or the weapons that were center around that weapon wall in the lighthouse. But basically, per week, there are 3 items that you can select from Brother Vance, and they're called Lost Prophecies. It is referred to as a 6-sided tablet with prophecies from Osiris. They are a quest, and listed within the prophecies are the requirements to complete the quest. And I believe that's some type of planetary material or something that you get as drops from regular activities that you play. They didn't want anything separate that you have to go through and try to find them. They just wanted them as regular drops that you get as you play. When you've completed the requirements of the prophecy, you take it back to Brother Vance and you transmute the tablet. And then you take the transmuted tablet to the forge, and you basically take that item to the forge, and you see an awesome light display, and then you get a weapon. This was not exactly, I know last episode you had mentioned that you had heard it around the community that people were talking about how you can, when they talked about forging, they were talking about taking combinations, parts of different weapons and attaching them to each other. And that is...
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's going to be that.
Yeah, it's not going to be that at all. It seems like a very simple quest to get a weapon, and that's it. So,
yeah, I'm still excited for it. It's still something new to do. It's hard for me to judge it without knowing what it's going to be. That goes back again to, we dream things up and then Bungie laughs. So, hopefully it'll be cool. I don't want to say it's a missed opportunity or anything like that. We'll see how it plays out.
And then they went on to talk about delivering the incentives. They explained that they're doing the public events, adventures, strikes. And on the points with strikes, we had mentioned with adventures that they are making some that are heroic, which is cool. And with the strikes, there will be 2 strikes that will ship with Curse of Osiris. They made the story version of one of the strikes, and when you complete the campaign, the story version will go into the strike playlist and will scale up in difficulty. Kind of like how Exodus Crash Strike was part. It wasn't actually a campaign mission. It was a side quest mission. I guess all of the strikes were actually a side quest mission and then became strikes. But I can't remember if it was scaled down in difficulty or not. I know I had a difficult time finishing that mission originally by myself, and then I remember having a difficult time finishing it with other people.
Yeah.
But they wanted strikes to feel like a main part of the story, though, is what they said. And they didn't want to spoil the strikes, as they wanted players to enjoy that for themselves, so they did not demo the strikes on that day. And then I wanted to credit McKingsley. Basically, he said on Destiny the Game's Facebook page, and I also confirmed it through Twitter, one of the strikes will occur in the Infinite Forest.
That's exciting.
Hey, not to get sidetracked here, but since you mentioned McKingsley, let me make a little edit from last week. So during the intro, for some reason my mouth was just running on, and I said that he was a former clan member. He's not a former clan member. I meant to say he's a fellow clan member. So that wasn't us just breaking the news that we were kicking him out of the clan or anything like that.
He's done.
Yeah. So no, we're just going to retcon that in. He is a fellow clan member, not a former. So sorry about that.
We'll razz you later in the post. It's okay. And then, so one of the strikes will occur in the Infinite Forest. That should be really interesting. I'm really excited to see what that could be.
I'm excited to see that one.
Yeah. I know with, and I wanted to definitely ask you something on the Infinite Forest here in a little bit.
Go ahead.
Zoltanki. No, in a moment. I'll come up to that here in just a moment. But, they started an adventure called The Up and Up, which led them through the Infinite Forest. And, basically reiterated one more time this week that the Infinite Forest is a large Vex simulation. It is constructed to explore all infinite possibilities throughout time that ultimately brings out their success and their goals. The Infinite Forest is constructed like a set of Lego blocks, as they explained. How those pieces fit together is what changes. There's no rhyme or reason of why they are constructed. It is just that they are connected to another reality. And then they went on to say that any four of the enemy combatants could be in these encounters. And one thing they noted and they brought up, I didn't have it in my notes, but I was just reminded by any four of the enemy combatants that the Hive and the Vex have never been seen fighting each other.
Yeah, I heard him say that. Now I was kind of going back in my mind and thinking, seriously? And then I couldn't think of a instance where I'd seen Hive and Vex fighting.
Yep.
It's really weird.
You've seen Taken and Vex fighting, but not the Hive directly. So I never even thought about that, that they've never really crossed paths within the game. I know that there is some lore where they've crossed paths with Crota. Sure. And then they entered into the future, or what they called the dark future. It looked kind of like the present day patrol zone, except it's dark. The sun is dead and everything is withered and deteriorated. And they refer to it as cold and hopeless. And then this is the part that I wanted to mention to you, Zoltanki, was, lots of jumping puzzles.
There were definitely a lot of jumping puzzles involved.
Yeah. Were your palms bleeding when you were watching that, when you were digging your nails into your hands watching that?
A lot of people have a lot of complaints about the changes to D2. One thing that I am very happy with is the Lion Rampant exotic Titan boots. They have really helped me step up, so to speak, my jump game. Have a little bit more mobility in air. I am on the record as being a really bad jumper. I think I finally kind of got to a point where I'm happy with my jump ability. So we'll see. I have a feeling I'll be dying a lot. I'll be cussing a lot. I'll be asking for lots of reses, but it doesn't look like anything insurmountable.
Okay. Well, we'll see.
We'll see.
When their particular objective for the instance was complete, and they defeated the fallen captain, HS spawn, and the contents were 2 tokens and a set of rare Titan boots.
Hey, they're rare, man.
Yeah.
That means there are many of them.
And then that was essentially the end of the the live stream. They just announced that they'll be back next Wednesday on the 29th at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And Deej will be joined by John Wisniewski to talk about some of the different weapons, and Kevin Lee to talk about the armor of Season 2. And they said that they'll be going over the campaign armor, exotic armor. I was a little shocked to see that they mentioned raid lair armor. And they'll be probably demoing off new faction rally armor and new Iron Banner armor. So, and then this little update came today. And Luke Smith tweeted, this wasn't, obviously this wasn't in the live stream, but I thought it would probably be pretty good to add this here at the end. But Luke Smith tweeted that next week the Destiny 2 team will detail the system side of the December update. It includes economy updates, vendors, and acquiring their gear, tokens, legendary shards. And then he went on to talk about investment updates, new reward systems for armor or weapons and armor, and then gameplay updates and more. Additionally, at Noseworthy, or that's Mark Noseworthy, and I will be answering some questions and addressing community feedback we've been reading since launch. See you soon. And I don't know if that means that it'll be on the day of the live stream, or if they'll be doing that at a separate event being held. So I don't know exactly when that will occur, but I'll be monitoring that kind of closely, and hopefully that'll be some better news to come up in the future.
Yeah, that'll be really interesting. Be interesting to see what they're willing to address and how far they're willing to get into some of the community complaints. So I will definitely be all ears on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to. I thought that there was at least some hint that they were going to talk about what they could potentially do to increase the end game for the players out there who are at least wanting that addressed. And I know that early on in the Destiny Luke Smith, or Destiny 2 information, Luke Smith had said something about, hey, they were going to come up with a way to figure out what they were going to do when you got your 3rd, 4th, 5th better devils, and how that could potentially change or reward you in some fashion beyond that. So hopefully they address those things. Maybe not. They've kind of made some stylistic changes to the game. I think we all, at least from my standpoint, I kind of am okay with the going away from primary, special, and heavy to this new, primary, or I don't know, they don't even call it that, but energy and power. I think that those changes that they made to that, I'm okay with. I see why they made them. I think that I think the move to go away from the randomized roles and to static roles was the questionable move in my spot. But maybe they can do something, and maybe get you guys' thoughts on this before next week. But maybe they could do something with the mods. That open up 3 mod slots on certain weapons, or all the weapons that you could randomize roles, and to not affect the PvP community as bad, you could disable those in competitive matches, so that if they do move once private matches occur to having some sort of MLG type gaming, that there's more equality in the tools that are being provided to those PvP players, so everybody's on an equal footing. I don't know. Those are just some of the thoughts that I had, but I think when you take away the idea that we're not going to have those randomized roles, it kind of creates a scenario with you're left with the rewards that you have. And for the collector part of me, who has collected pretty much everything in the game, it kind of doesn't make it as rewarding as I'd like it to be.
Yeah. one thing I would like to say, just kind of to go off of what Ray had said, I think mods are where it's at. I have a lot of hope that we're only seeing the beginning of the mod system. And we've discussed this a little bit in the past, but if I could get an explosive rounds mod, you say even if it's archetype specific. So say I open a chest or whatever, I get a gunsmith package, and I have a mod for counterbalance just for pulse rifles. Or if I get a mod that is explosive rounds just for hand cannons, and then I can go and put that on any legendary hand cannon. To me, that fixes the problems right there. It doesn't change the infrastructure of how the game works. Even if I have to give up one of the static rolls that came with a gun, I don't see how, again, I don't do coding. I don't know how that works. I know all these things are possible. But to me, that is the big opportunity right there that I think that they have built into the game that we're going to see a lot more with the mod system. Now it's never going to exactly be what we had in Destiny 1 with random rolls. But I think that that's really the opportunity to, add a level of customization that we just don't have right now. Because again, say for example, the one that I threw out there for the counterbalance mod for pulse rifles. Maybe it's going to take you 25 packages before you get that. Well, there's your grind. So yeah, it's be interesting to see, but I'm hoping to see a lot more from that here in the future.
Yeah. I mean, just to echo your guys' thoughts. I mean, I understand that, random rolls would provide some type of grind. But even if they were to even just add like another tree to the end of those weapons, and here's my whole issue with the random rolls problem, because it is actually a problem in a way to try to balance all that. My issue with random rolls is the way that the Crucible is set up now. Everything is based on skill, because I know I'm not being outshot by some RNG purpose. I know that if I die, it's because that was on me. I screwed up somehow.
Yes.
And in some way, that's more of an incentive for me to get a little bit better. In which this last Iron Banner, I have made leaps and strides to get a little bit better. I actually had a lot of fun playing with all the guys from Hoot Dawg this week. I mean, it was sad that we couldn't get into a larger group, but if there was an issue why I died, I mean, that was purely on me. That was either a stupid move that I made. I like the idea of having fixed rolls for the Crucible. That may not be a popular opinion, but I wish there was like an extra tree at the end of each weapon that would be somehow randomized, that would only be enabled for PvE purposes, or there was something that was tied to the perk that just said, enemies of the darkness. And that may even be something to grind for, but
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the thing with Crucible too, like you said, when I die, it's not because somebody else had, due to RNG, had a weapon that I just didn't have. I'm not getting shot by a perfect Ice Luna, that they, where they have an advantage over me just because due to a random number generator, they got a gun that I don't have. When I die, it's because I let myself get flanked, because I got into an area where I had no cover, because I went in with a weapon that wasn't loaded, something like that. I 100% agree with you. It's skill based right now. I do also, for me personally, I get killed by a variety of weapons. So it's not that I think that the Crucible, that PvP right now lacks variety. Again, when I'm always interested when I get hit by something, look at the kill feed and what exactly was that I just got torn up by. I'm seeing a lot of auto rifles. Seeing a lot of hand cannons, but I'm also seeing a lot of weird stuff where I'll actually have to go into dim and say, do I have that? Is that something I've ever even tried out before? So it's not that it's lacking variety, it's lacking options. So I like the idea of what you're saying there about just add another perk tree, where something could be, thrown in, even if it's something random. Remember with the King's Fall weapons, even though most of them weren't good, one of the things that kept a lot of people going back to King's Fall is that last perk was different with the weapons. You had a static roll until that last perk tree. So, for example, Defiance of Yasmin, one of the best snipers in Destiny 1, in my humble opinion, I got exactly the one that I wanted. I can't even remember exactly what the perk was now. It's been so long. I knew other people that would grind every week because they wanted a different perk in that last column. So yeah, that's an interesting idea.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not suggesting, and maybe I'll walk back my comments just a little bit. I'm not suggesting that the allowing of randomized rolls is going to be the be-all, end-all of fixing everything. I think it's an additional way to grind for sure that keeps people in the investment longer. And maybe if it's just, like you said, Gumbe, adding another tree and then having that separate tree randomized for PvE purposes for the mods that you could potentially get in those slots. For instance, a Better Devils maybe on the top line, you can only get between Stability or Outlaw or Rampage or whatever, and you have to pick which one of those. That might make your investment in a new Better Devil something more, because maybe you want to try a different mod on that one to see if you like it any better, and it creates a crafting economy. My problem with PvP specifically as a avid PvP Destiny 1 player is the time to kill. I think there are times where I agree that being a solo queuing player, and this is not trying to make an excuse, but there are times where you are standing there with somebody, a random player, and you come around the corner and you've got two guys, and that guy turns tails and run, you're dead. There's absolutely no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you don't bail too, you're a goner, because there are no hero moments where you can take down two people anymore. It's a team shot game, and when you're in a solo queuing in a queue where multiple players on the other team are in some sort of clan or in some sort of and they're running together, you stand very little chance of winning that game. And it's not all about winning, it's about getting better. But the power moment of you winning 2v1s is over with in Destiny 2. And I think if you just drop down that time to kill to around the range of D1, you would fix some of those issues, and that would be my suggestion. But what do I know? I'm not a game designer. I don't know how difficult it is to do these types of things, and so we make a lot of these suggestions, but the reality of it is the base core game, you kind of have to trust Destiny as they move forward, or Bungie as they move forward, that some of these things are going to even themselves out.
And I think that's the important thing that we're gathering from this too, is that, we're not coming out of this, conversation with hate. We're trying to be constructive. We're trying to be, we're hoping to see a game go in a direction that we would like to, see it progress and make the experience more enjoyable. But yeah, I mean, we do have wants and kind of, expectations out of this game eventually down the road. And, but, the only thing I can say is that, the best thing we can do is remain constructive in our criticisms.
I agree.
Agreed.
As I mentioned at beginning of our main discussion topic before. It wasn't a very information-dense stream, but still it was entertaining either way. A lot to look forward to next week, and especially we're also looking forward to hear what comes from Luke Smith and Mark Noseworthy. But yeah, a lot to look forward to, and I especially liked our conversation near the end of that segment. But we'll go ahead and close her out here. We are listed on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. If you'd be so kind, please subscribe. Or even better, share our podcast with a friend. If you'd like to send us feedback, you can send us an email or leave us a voicemail, and we'll include it in our show. Our show email address is hootdogradio@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/hootdogradio. We are also on Facebook at facebook.com/hootdogradio. And we are also on YouTube. We currently do not have a custom URL, as I mentioned before. But if you do a simple Google search and just type Hoot Dawg Radio, and our videos should show up in the results for you, along with all of our other podcast listings. If you'd like to leave us a voicemail, you can call 419-515-6851. And please do remember to try to keep the voicemail to about 30 seconds or less so we can include it in our podcast as a nice little soundbite. I am Gunbait101. My PSN is Gunbait101. That's GUNBAIT 101. My Twitter is twitter.com/gunbait_101. And my Twitch stream is twitch.tv/gunbait101.
I am Zoltanky on PSN, and that is ZULTANKY. On Twitter, I'm Zoltanky Gaming. I'm going to just stop even listening to my Twitch until I start doing something with it. That's going to be coming soon. I think that's going to be one of the trademarks of our shows every week. I'm going to say that I'm going to do something with Twitch. So eventually, one day I will. Yeah,
it's going to be
you
a
just
show
wait.
title,
One day I'm going to actually
think,
start
so.
Streaming on Twitch, and none of you will believe me.
And Ray, where can people find you?
I'm on PSN under the username srayme, and that's spelled SRAYME. And now you know why they just call me Ray. And then on Xbox, it's almost the same. It's Strayme, STRAYME. And you can find me on either one of those platforms. Look me up.
Thank you, Ray, so much for coming on this week. We really appreciate you having you on and having your input. Well, it was just great to have you on.
It was my pleasure, guys. Thanks for the invite.
All right. And
thanks a lot, guys.
And until next time, thank you, Zoltanky and Ray.
Thank you.
And thank you to the listeners. We hope you have a great week.